Welcome to another edition of the Dementia Care Partner Talk Show. Now, here's dementia care expert Teepa and your host, Greg Phelps.
Hello and welcome to the Dementia Care Partners podcast. I'm your host, Greg Phelps. Joining me once again is dementia care expert Teepa. And Teepa, sadly, we recently had another silver alert in our area and it didn't end well. And for those who aren't familiar with that term, many areas issue a silver alert. I'm not sure what you use. When a senior goes missing. What information would be helpful if somebody wanders away? We have covered this fairly recently, but it's becoming more of a thing. So I think it deserves a second look.
Yeah, I mean, I think some things is to know whether or not the person has access to a motor vehicle. And if not a motor vehicle, a golf cart. And if not a golf cart, a riding lawnmower. What does the person have access to and what might they be able to use besides going on foot? I also think it's super important to know whether someone's more of an introvert or an extrovert. Like, are they likely to seek out a person and get a ride, seek out a person and get help? If so, and if they look relatively okay, the person may take them somewhere. So when you're looking for your radius of how far someone could go, you want to take into account, what mode of transportation or travel might they be using. And then, of course, before you get too busy, it's really important to call for help before you might muck up the scene with added seeking, which makes it harder for people to find. So err on the side of caution and say, ooh, the person isn't where I thought they would be. Maybe one or two quick phone calls, have neighbors, alert neighbors ahead of time, alert people around ahead of time. If you notice so-and-so out on their own, and it's not 5 to 7 p.m. and when we do our walk, and if you notice them going away, just notifying people as the potential, then I would say it's time to get the authorities involved sooner rather than later. Because putting it off increases the odds that we have less time and less ability to potentially resolve this in a safer way.
This time of year, the days are so much shorter. So by the time supper time rolls around when so-and-so should be back from out in the yard, all of a sudden it's dark, which compounds the problem because you're dealing with different weather and inability for sightlines.
Yeah, and we know that the transition of time, fall season, daylight savings to not daylight savings, those kinds of time transitions and that early darkness increases the risk of stress and distress around location. And that sense of I'm not in the right place at the right time. I need to be home. I need to be at work. I need to be somewhere else. This isn't where I should be. And that heightens when we also have a carer who's reaching the end of the tether at that time of day and saying, I said, just give me 5 minutes. I'm just fixing dinner. Just go sit down and I'll be right with you. Or I need to do this. Just give me a few minutes. And without meaning to, it seems like we're not listening because we're tired. And then the person is not there. And you don't notice it at first because it's just peaceful for minutes. And then all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh, wait a minute, I haven't heard her for a bit. And you realize, oh, and then you see the door and then it's like, oh no. And so then the panic sets in, and panic and freezing, be cautious about yelling because it can sound like you're angry and upset versus, Mom, hey, are you out here? I was looking for you. I thought you were inside, versus, Mom, where are you? Which has a very different feel to it as it turns out.
At one of your talks, and I can't remember where because I've been to one or two, you mentioned the words time traveler. Now, where does that fit into this topic?
So we're talking here about spatial disorientation, in other words, place challenges. But the thing that happens as your brain has issues and the chemistry drops is not only are you having trouble with your hippocampus locating you, wayfinding, you're also have trouble with keeping up with the passage of time. So you could think you're 22 and you're going to get ready to go to your shift at Subway, which you haven't done for years since Subway first opened. And so you're not even in the same town, in the same space, but you think you should head out. And so you get out there and then you can't find your way. So the idea of time traveling, trying to get back to a life that I've known in a space that I'm not, complicates everything. So knowing right-handedness, left-handedness, knowing history can make a difference. Had one guy who he kept trying to go to his Rotary meeting because that was a place he felt welcomed. He felt community. He felt like he was part of something. He knew he could still handle that kind of social chit-chatty stuff. So he was going to that. But unfortunately, he had been in Rotary for like 20 years, and the Rotary meeting place was no longer the place it used to be. And worse situation, it was across a 6-lane highway.
Teepa, this is one of
It was
these
not safe
topics.
aware.
No, this is one of these topics that we could go on for an hour because
We
there
could.
are some technological changes that people can adapt.
Yeah.
But if somebody is worried about this, can we talk to somebody and get some information? Some of your staff have dealt with this.
Yeah, I would highly suggest the possibility of doing it before the first event. About 65 or better percent of people living with any form of dementia are going to be at risk for this idea of wandering or eloping or getting in the wrong place. So yeah, let's talk, and let's talk before it truly becomes a huge issue. If you've noticed that afternoon confusion in time and place, now's a good time to sort of start wonder proofing, elope proofing, being programmatically smart, talking to law enforcement, talking to EMS folks, neighbors. Now's the time. So let's have a conversation for sure.
Teepa, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
You've been listening to the Dementia Care Partners podcast, brought to you by Positive Approach to Care. For more information, go to teepasnow.com.